What happens when one of music's greatest divas sits down with America's most trusted weatherman, and suddenly everything spirals out of control? Well, you're about to see, because what went down during this morning's Today Show interview will leave you stunned. Before we get into this wild drama, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you think really set off this heated moment. The morning began like any other at Studio 1A. Al Roker, fresh from his cheerful weather forecast, was getting ready for what looked like a standard celebrity interview. Chaka, the 10-time Grammy-winning queen of funk, had just released her memoir and was making the TV rounds to promote it. Her publicist had specifically asked for Al, believing his warm and easygoing style would be perfect for bringing out the personal side of her book. "Good morning. I'm Al Roker, and we're here with the legendary Chaka Khan." Al began with his trademark smile. "Thank you for having me, Al. It's always a joy," Chaka replied. Dressed in a flowing purple caftan with her famous curls perfectly styled, the first few minutes flowed smoothly. Al asked about her childhood in Chicago, her early years with Rufus, and what inspired her to write her memoir. Chaka answered thoughtfully, sharing stories about her rise to fame and the difficulties she faced as a black woman trying to navigate the music business in the 1970s. "Your book really digs deep into some tough parts of your life," Al said, leaning forward. "You write a lot about your struggles with addiction and how it impacted your family." "Yes," Chaka said, her tone shifting to something more serious. "I had to be honest about those moments. Too many people, especially in our community, suffer silently. If my story can help even one person move toward recovery, then all the pain of sharing is worth it." "That's incredibly brave," Al said approvingly. "And speaking of bravery, you've always been outspoken about the music industry. In your book, you criticize record labels for how they treated artists, especially artists of color, during your prime years." "Absolutely," Chaka replied, her eyes burning with passion. "The exploitation was intentional. They signed us, made millions off our talent, and left us with crumbs while they built empires. I watched too many incredible artists get crushed by contracts that were basically modern-day slavery." Al shifted in his chair, feeling the weight in her words. "That's a strong comparison, slavery." "It's the truth," Chaka shot back firmly. "When you sign away your publishing rights for nothing, when you're forced to record music you hate, when you lose control of your vision, what else would you call it?" "I understand your frustration with unfair business practices," Al said carefully. "But don't you think comparing it to slavery might be, well, a bit too much?" The air in the studio suddenly felt colder. Chaka's face hardened, and she locked eyes with Al in a way that made the crew shift uncomfortably. "Too much?" she repeated slowly. "Al, with all due respect, you've spent your career in television, working for networks that treated you well. You've never had your culture stolen, your royalties manipulated, or your art reduced to a commodity." Al raised his hands, trying to calm the storm. "I'm not trying to dismiss what you've been through, Chaka. I'm just suggesting there might be other ways to explain it without using such heavy comparisons." "Other ways for who?" she demanded, her voice ringing through the studio. "For your morning show audience who'd rather sip coffee and ignore the ugly truths about where their favorite music really comes from?" Silence fell, broken only by the low hum of the cameras. Al glanced toward the producers, his smile faltering as he tried to steer the conversation back. "Maybe we should shift gears a little. Let's talk about your new music. You've been collaborating with younger artists." "Don't you dare change the subject," Chaka cut in, pointing at him. "You questioned my words, and I answered. What's appropriate is acknowledging how the industry has treated black artists. Pretending otherwise is ignorance." Al's calm composure was slipping. "I respect your point, but this is a morning show. People tune in for uplifting stories, not heavy lectures about systemic problems." "You call me speaking truth a lecture?" Chaka's voice grew sharper. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment a black woman gets passionate about injustice, we're angry, we're lecturing, we're too much." "That's not what I meant," Al insisted, but his voice cracked. "Then what did you mean?" she pressed, leaning forward with fire in her eyes. "Because it sounds to me like you care more about keeping your audience comfortable than listening to what I have to say." Al flushed red, his usual easy charm nowhere to be found. "Chaka, I've been doing this for decades. Thousands of interviews, I know how to conduct a respectful conversation. Do you? She shot back. Because right now, it feels like you're policing my language, softening my truth to suit your viewers. That's not respect, Al. That's control. The producers were motioning frantically, but neither Al nor Chaka noticed. I'm not trying to control you, Al said, his smile gone. I'm trying to have a real discussion. But when you throw around comparisons and accusations, it makes it hard to actually connect. Inflammatory. Chaka's voice cut like a whip. The fact that I lost millions because someone stole my music is inflammatory. The fact that I had to pay to sing my own songs is inflammatory. That's reality. I'm not saying your story isn't real, Al said, but his tone was tight. I'm talking about presentation. There's a difference between telling your truth and generalizing an entire industry. Chaka laughed bitterly. Generalizing? Do you know how many of my peers from the 70s and 80s died broke while labels cashed in? That's not a generalization, Al. That's a pattern. I sympathize, Al said, leaning back uncomfortably. But to sit on national TV and make sweeping statements without nuance, it's irresponsible. The word irresponsible hit like a grenade. Irresponsible? Chaka's eyes narrowed. What's irresponsible is sitting in your cushy chair with your cushy salary, telling me I'm irresponsible for speaking about decades of exploitation. That's not fair, Al protested. You don't know what I've faced in this industry. You're right, I don't, Chaka said coldly. But I know you've never been told your natural hair wasn't marketable. I know you've never had to watch someone else make millions off your songs. I know you've never been told to smile more and complain less. Al's jaw clenched. You think I've never faced racism? I've been harassed. I've received threats. Don't lecture me about struggle. Then you should understand, Chaka fired back. Instead, you're doing their work for them, trying to silence me. I'm not silencing you, Al snapped, his tone now matching hers. But a morning show about your memoir isn't the place for a manifesto. Manifesto? Chaka's voice cracked the air. Talking about my own life is now a manifesto? That's exactly the problem. The minute the truth is uncomfortable, it's called political. The tension was unbearable. Crew members looked unsure whether to keep filming or cut to commercial. Look, Al said, rubbing his face. I wanted to celebrate your career, your new book. Instead, we're stuck in an argument our viewers didn't ask for. Our viewers? Chaka sneered. You mean your viewers? The ones you shield from hearing anything that challenges them. God forbid they think beyond the weather while sipping their lattes. That's not true, Al barked. The Today Show covers serious issues all the time. Safe issues, Chaka snapped. Controlled narratives, sanitized stories that never get too raw. But the second I tell the truth, it's inappropriate. The raw truth? Al was visibly shaken. The raw truth is you came here to promote a book, but turned it into an attack on me in this show. Chaka stood so quickly, her chair rolled back. Damn right I'm angry. After 50 years, I still have to fight for the right to speak my truth. Al stood too, but even with his height, Chaka's presence filled the room. If you can't have a civil talk without making everything a fight, Al said tightly, maybe TV interviews aren't the right place for you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Chaka's voice dropped dangerously low. I've been doing interviews since long before you were on TV. Johnny Carson, Oprah. Not one of them ever told me what platform was right for me. Al realized he'd gone too far. But pride kept him from backing down. That's not what I meant, he said. I meant we need a real conversation, not controversy for the sake of it. For the sake of it? Chaka exploded. You think I want this? This is my life. Decades of pain and injustice you just brushed off as inappropriate. The producers were practically waving their arms off, but the cameras kept rolling. I didn't dismiss your pain, Al insisted. I just don't understand why every talk has to be a battle. Why not focus on the joy, the achievements? Because my achievements don't exist without the struggle, Chaka said, her voice full of fire. My art is tied to my experience. You can't erase that. Fine, Al said, throwing his hands up. But can't we balance it with positivity? Positivity? Chaka laughed bitterly. You want me to perform happiness and pretend the pain never existed. That's not celebration, Al. That's erasure. I'm asking for balance, Al said desperately, so our audience isn't alienated before we even get to the good parts. There it is, Chaka snapped. It's always about your audience, your ratings, your comfort, not my truth. Al's face was flushed with anger. Yes, I care about our viewers. They expect inspiration, not angry tirades. Angry tirades? Chaka's voice thundered. 50 years of struggle and dignity reduced to a tirade. You just proved my point. She ripped off her mic, her hands shaking with fury. You want sanitized success stories? Fine. You can have your show without me. Chaka, wait, Al pleaded. Let's find common ground. Common ground? She scoffed. That disappeared the moment you decided my story was too uncomfortable. I respect you, Al said, scrambling. Your talent, your strength, you respect the version of me that fits your neat little box, she cut him off. The smiling entertainer who says just enough struggle to inspire but not enough to challenge. The moment I speak raw truth, I'm suddenly too much. That's not true, Al said weakly. It's completely true, Chaka snapped. And the worst part, you don't even see it. You're so used to black women performing gratitude that you can't handle it when we show you fire. The room was frozen. Every crew member was transfixed by this historic clash. I hope your audience enjoys their comfortable morning, Chaka said coldly. But don't expect every black artist to play along. Some of us have too much self-respect. With regal grace, she turned and walked off. Chaka, wait, Al called, but she didn't stop. He turned to the cameras, pale and shaken. We'll be right back, he mumbled, but she was already gone, leaving behind stunned faces and a rattled weatherman who had just learned that some storms can't be predicted, controlled, or smoothed over with a smile. The Queen of Funk had spoken her truth, and no morning show politeness could silence it. So what do you think really caused this blow-up? Was it Al pushing back on her words, or was something deeper underneath it all? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with what you think was the real breaking point in this unforgettable clash.